Jason and I came out to check on sugar maples for sugaring season. So we have this section of property right down here along the driveway that goes down by the old road. You can kind of see maybe Jade walking up the old road back there. And if you watched any of the videos from last couple years, last year especially, that old road is where we did a lot of the sugaring. It's lined with old sugar maples, mostly very, very large sugar maples. And so we're looking at ways to run some line this year instead of having to do buckets on every tree, which will help us on collection and going into food grade totes instead of, again, having a 3-gallon bucket on the side of the tree or a 5-gallon underneath the tree that ends up overflowing in a single day. We can actually collect for maybe a day or two and then go pump at one station using a battery-powered pump into a holding tank in the tractor. I just counted roughly 14 to 16 sugar maples in this bank area. And with the road access, it's not plowed, but with the tractor we find. We probably, a lot of those are at least 2 tap per tree. So we could get a good amount of sugar and sap just from this one section here on the property. We also still have the trees up on the other side of the driveway, and that's another 4 or 5 trees there. We've got the trees out in front of the house, which are also sugar maples, which is another 4 trees there. And then we have someone over the lower lot area and the big mother tree that I like to call the property. So we're prepping our line. These are the tap lines. So we just cut a bunch of different lengths, or 3 different lengths. Some of these are about roughly just over 2 feet. Some are roughly 3, and then I have a couple that are extra long. And these will go into these are 5/16. And these will actually feed in these black teas over here. Let me put one of these here for you. See? From the tree, goes from the tree, which will have a tap. This side goes in the tree. And then this goes in up to the barbs. You can see there's the barbs here, that ridge line. You want to push the tubing up over that, and then you come down to the bottom of the line. It goes into the T, and what we're doing is goes into the center T, and then that way the main line can continue on both sides. And we're going to cut this into the line after we put it through. So Jace has the two-hand tool. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
And we got all these supplies up at Bascoms up in New Hampshire. We went last weekend. And we're just making a bunch of prep to be ready to go tap Saturday and Sunday. We are getting a pretty big cold front, or freeze I should say, coming in right now. It's going to be like -15 or so Friday, Saturday, and so after that the weather looks like it's going to be in the high 30s, low 40s, and in the 20s every night, and so that's perfect weather for tapping. And so we are going to get tapping, and we're going to actually do a lot more line this year, which we're really excited about. And so as we move through here, I thought we could show you guys what we're doing and some of the prep work we're doing, and we'll continue to update you guys and do another video this weekend when we actually get the line through the woods. That one will be a little harder to film, I think, because we're going to be doing a lot of work in the snow. But some of the things that we are going to do is we're going to actually have a big black main line, and I don't have that up here right now. It's still down in the car. And that is a 3/4 inch main line, and the 3/4 inch main line is going to be set up with wire from one up the top of the hill, and then we'll go all the way down to the bottom where we'll have an IBC tote, and then all of these lines here, each one's kind of circled in together right now for ease of carrying, but each one of those will go into another 5/16 line, and then that line, there'll be about 4 to 5 per line will go right into the feeder line, or these can actually go right into the main 3/4 line as well. So then that will go into the IBC tote at the bottom of the hill, and this will be gravity fed. This won't have a pump on it, a vacuum on it, I should say. And then we'll use a pump to potentially pump out of the IBC tote or the olive barrels, I'm not sure which one we're using yet, to then get it into the container that will be in the tractor. And then that will be our storage tanks for bringing them up here to the behind the garage, to where we will pull our evaporator. We have a WF Mason 3x2 evaporator, and Jace kind of built it up onto a pallet with fireboard, I think, right? So with the fireboard last year, so we can just take the tractor forks and pull that out of the garage until we get a sugar house. So we learned a lot going up to Bascoms, and it's a great drive. If you're anywhere near in New England, highly recommend, or even New York, highly recommend taking the drive and going up to Bascoms. It's in Ackworth, New Hampshire. A little bit in the middle of nowhere, but a beautiful view. I'll add some clips from there last weekend. They had started tapping up there January 9th, I think they said, and they had already collected, it's quite a lot, Chase, right?
44,000 gallons.
Yeah, and that was last weekend. So I imagine a lot more by now. They've got a pretty big operation, and they were boiling and everything, of course. So that's a pretty cool place, though, and lots of knowledge there. That's where we got our evaporator last year. What was a couple things that we learned when we were up there you want to mention?
Nothing.
Nothing? We learned a lot. We talked on the way home. I tried to video some of it, so maybe I'll add some of the clips of the quick notes that we learned.
So this is kind of what we have. So you got a main line.
Oh, you're going too fast.
So that's pretty cool.
Yep. And that's the holding tank. And they've already processed how much? 44,000? Yep, take the right.
No, they haven't processed it.
They've collected 44,000.
Continue on Cranebrook Road for 3 miles.
50 something gallons. You can see the lines running up in the hills there. That black line is the main line. You can see some of it's cabled to trees. And then you have the leader line, or the feeder lines, coming down from the trees into the black line. But what we learned was that you said that we can put taps right into the black main line directly if it is right up against the trees, right?
Yep.
Another feeder tank. See that main line's running up there. And he said we got 3/4 main line, right?
Yeah.
And he said we could do the 100 to 200 taps or something like that on a up to 200 on a 3/4 line. It's another tank. And we plan on doing more like 35. And
our evaporators only good for 50 maybe, so
50 taps?
it's either 50 or 100.
I thought it was 100. Oh, there's another tank there. Yeah, so we have the 2x3 foot MF WF Mason evaporator we got from Bascoms last year. It's 8 gallons an hour of sap, right? Something like that.
It's like 8 to 11 or something.
8 to 11. And we tap only sugar maples, so that is typically around a 40 to 1. There's another maple production there. 40 to 1 sap to syrup ratio. So 40 gallons of sap to 1 gallon of syrup. Last year we did about 4.5 gallons of syrup. And for the leader lines or the feeder lines to the main line, we got 5/16 was what they recommended up there for us. We're not doing a vacuum, so this will be gravity fed. And he helped us get all the different connections, and we got a new a two-handed tool, which is has the clamps for the tubing on each side, and then a cutter in the center for putting the tees in, so we can add the feeder lines and the tap lines.
It's crazy that tool was a third of the money we spent there.
Yeah, that tool is not cheap if you can find a used one, right? Picturesque New Hampshire, New England.
I was kind of surprised he said 5 taps per tree.
Not
Or
five taps per liter or feeder.
It's called a
Keep
In
on.
a 1/4 mile, slide right onto New
it's
Hampshire
not a leader line,
123A
it's
West.
a lateral line.
Lateral line. I kept on using all the fly fishing terms.
Tractor Supply sells new IBC totes, but they're big dollars.
Yeah.
Next right.
They say rule of thumb for storage is 2 gallons per tap per day,
Per day.
I believe is what he said.
Yep. So if we did 35 taps, right, and just multiply that by 2,
Yep.
because it's not per tree, it's actually per tap.
I don't remember if it's by tap or by tree, but either way, we're gonna have plenty of
It's
storage.
probably 1.7 or something like that, or whatever for the second tap, because I think the Proctor Maple place said in their lecture, they said something about how it's, if you do 2 taps on a tree, you don't get 200%, but you get like 170%.
Right.
I have to go back to watch that lecture again though. But let's use round numbers for now. So 2 gallons for 35 is
So-
70 gallons.
So if you use an IBC tote, then we're gonna have plenty of storage if we use
How big's that? IBC tote?
270.
270. 270 gallons.
Yeah. But if we use the other ones,
The orange, they're like olive barrels,
yeah, those are 50,
55s or 60s.
something like that.
Yeah, and that's what we used last year in the back of the tractor. And we got to make sure the tractor can lift whatever we pump out of the holding tank, right?
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be
Watch
something.
this guy.
It's gonna be something to where we're only gonna. I mean, we might not be able to get it all in one shot. We might
Right.
have to take
Well-
multiple trips.
Yeah,
The tractor can.
watch this mail car.
I guess a tractor could probably do an IBC tote full on the forks.
On the front.
Yeah.
Watch the car.
It's at the limit though.
Right, and then you're going up a potentially icy road with it too.
Yeah, that's probably not gonna.
So, right, but what we could do is would be 70 gallons a day is what we just said. So if then we say, okay, then we go and we pump every other day. I've been watching a lot of the Vermont Maple Academy or the Proctor Maple Institute or something like that on YouTube. It's affiliated with UVM. They actually post full lectures up on there with the graphs and charts and things like that for tap depth and for line and tap angle and all sorts of things. And we've learned quite a bit. One of the things we care about a lot is the sustainability of trees. So one of that's kind of an important thing. So when we tap, we won't always put as many taps as maybe somebody else, and then some trees I will tap a little extra. So we have quite a large amount. So some of them are larger than what Jay and I could hug around. So with those trees, putting 2 to 3 taps is not a bad thing. Yeah, I was really interested though that 5 taps per feeder line into the main line. But, so I thought that was really interesting. Let's see some of the other things we got. Those are the end ones.
Yep.
And then these black ones are for circling around the trees, right?
Yep.
So at the top of each of the feeder lines, so every 5 taps, right, you kind of have one main line coming down. This is the main line coming down. Then you'll have all these offshoots coming from all these other maples. You'll have up to 5 offshoots coming to there. This top one will actually circle back around and will clip on itself and plug it itself. So you put this on the very top of the big line, and then it would clip back around the tree. So that worked pretty good. And then the two-hand tool is pretty cool because it has the 2 clamps on both sides. And this is not a cheap tool. If you can find one used, I highly recommend that. And we got the one with the blade in the middle, so I didn't have to carry another tool with me. But out in the woods, when we do this, our line will be going straight through the feeder line. And so when we want to add one of these tap lines on, we're going to actually clamp it on both sides of the, or clamp both sides of the clamp down on the main line, the feed line. And then we'll use the cutter, and this cutter thing just comes forward and just slices it, but it holds on to the ends. And then we'll take this T And just like he's doing now where he's pressing it in, we're going to take this and press both of those ends into the T, and then all of a sudden, no more gap. Very handy tool. Again, very expensive. So,
Doesn't look like much,
but it is.
they think it's pretty important. So
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the videos I watch, the guys that didn't have them were dropping tools and stuff too. So, and I think when you're cutting a line midway through, this will be better. Elevation drop is really important if you're going to do gravity, a gravity vacuum. So making sure you're on a bank or a hill. Thankfully we have that. Jason and I also took a walk the other day and checked out all the maples we had in an area. So we actually do have quite a few more maples to tap if we wanted to. We could probably, without much effort, get up to 50 taps. I'm not sure we want to get up that high, but right now anyways, until we have a sugar house. But the goal is to do some more of that. So we're gonna keep going here, and as I'm watching Jay work, maybe I'll help him. Then next up is making sure we get the right cable and wiring for the main line. And the big roll of tubing we have. We got a 500-foot tubing roll. 400 foot. 400 of the black, but the blue stuff is 500, right?
yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. So the 5/16 is 500 foot, and the 3/4 inch black tubing is 400 feet. We also got some bottles and things like that. Say Massachusetts maple, which is pure maple, which is great. Excited to have those. We may even try selling some syrup this year is the plan. So we'll see how that goes. And we'll do another video again, like I said, from once we get the lines done and some of the tapping we're going to do this weekend. I am going to still do a few buckets, if I didn't mention that yet. That must be one I cut. That got me pretty good. Yeah, we will still have a few buckets going up on some of the trees where it doesn't make sense to do a big line. But I am really excited with the big freeze finally coming. So kind of the first freeze we've gotten in a long time. This will be really great for us. Yeah, we will update you in a little bit.